Well, I mean, you know, the best form of government is benevolent dictator. So,
Near miss.
Yeah, no, we
Love that.
maybe that's better for the
Legal fees.
Oh, we got to have that.
But the money being spent controls all the
influence. Hello, Mr. Hickson.
You know Representative Boosville.
Let me ask you a question. We're talking,
You know, I'm glad it wasn't any worse than that. You can to blame.
and there are things we want regulations.
Were they in the plane? They were there. Oh, wow.
One, two, three, 1, 2, 3, 4. One, two, three. Nice and ready. It will be.
Or right after lunch. If you'd like. What size shoe? Oh, that's too big. You were the next size. I do.
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry. Prior to that, I was, yeah, so Drew. Yeah.
How are you, sir?
All right, I'm here. I'm doing very good.
How are you?
Pull up one of them chairs there.
I'm good.
You can't see over there. Just sit there. Ain't gonna be people in your way if you don't. Did she take your seat? Is that what she did?
No. Actually, I got a doctor's appointment. I might have to disappear. So.
It's lunchtime, right?
Yeah. But I gotta behave myself.
That's not going.
God explained them.
Make yourself comfortable, Mark.
Try to make it kind of quick, if that's okay with everybody. Everybody set up with
You know, I'm taking advantage because I spent the evening with you last
And if
Thursday.
we could have all the chair ladies and chairmen maybe move in behind the speaker,
Yeah, that didn't
Mr.
sound
Leader
good,
over
did
here.
Oh, sorry. I went y'all. I'm
There
sorry.
you go.
Don't get me in trouble.
Don't worry, they can see over you.
All right, everybody ready? All right, well, want to welcome you all here and appreciate you being here and look forward to a session, a vibrant legislative session. I think as we start off, you know, we have a few issues that we're very concerned with. First is tax reform, having historic tax reform. I think also you're going to see us concentrate on public safety, and especially violent juvenile crime. And then also, like what's going on at the federal level, is to deal with the regulations and reduce the regulatory burden on South Carolina citizens and businesses in the state. So I think those will be the concentrations that you see us as we first move through the legislative session. And I look forward to working with everybody on this. Historic tax reform, we have an issue with people with our neighbors in our neighboring states not being able to. Well, let me start. We have a problem with our neighboring states in that they are continuing to reduce taxes below our level. And for us to be competitive with our neighbors, we're going to have taxes at a rate lower than theirs. And so that's going to be a goal of ours as we work on the tax reform package. And then I think also we've been seeing a rise in juvenile crimes, especially gun crimes and violent crimes. And I think we are going to have to address that issue. It's a real problem where I'm from in Sumter County, and I see from all over the state. And unfortunately, juveniles are the ones that are committing a lot of the crime these days, especially violent crime. And we're going to have to address that with legislation. And lastly, as I mentioned, we have regulatory burdens. If you saw us introductions today, we introduced probably hundreds of new regulations. And it's time for us to look at these regulations to make sure that they are still needed and to scrutinize those more. And importantly, what we want to do is if those regulations that have not been looked at for years, they don't live in perpetuity, we need to go back and look at those and make sure they're still necessary and they're favorable for our business climate in South Carolina. So I have my chairman here, and we can certainly ask questions, but first I want to recognize Leader Hyatt for a few words.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank y'all for being here. Happy New Year to you. Hard to believe New Year's upon us, but we're here and ready to go again. Speaker's outlined a very good agenda that we're going to take up this year. We've got a lot of things going on. Obviously, we don't want to forget about energy. We commend the Senate for taking up the energy issue. We encourage them to continue it, get it done as quickly as possible, and get it back to us so that we can get it to the governor's desk for a signature. And let's increase the energy generation. You've heard that story over and over again for the last 2 years, but we're hoping that we're going to have something this year fairly quickly so that we can get it to the governor's office for a signature. Obviously, another thing we're going to have to address is the insurance liability issue. Every day you pick up the paper or pick up your phone or turn on the radio, you hear about another business going out of business because of the liquor issue, the insurance issue. So we've got to address that in some form. I know Representative Pope's been working on that ever since I've been here. I think he's on some kind of insurance reform, and so we're hopefully going to have that. We've got many other things going on. Obviously, DEI will be one of them. We won't get into specifics about that, but a whole lot of things going on. We know that you may have some questions for us, so at this time, I'm going to just let you, all the committee chairmen are here, and so if there's a specific question that you have about a specific bill that they may be able to fill you in on, we'll be glad for them to answer that question.
Let me wrap up with one thing before we start. Sorry to interrupt your mind. Is the last thing that we need to remember is we're going to concentrate also on hurricane relief that we've had. That's been a big issue. You see the other day the governor came out with his recommendation for money, and the question is we work with agencies to see whether we need to address that now or whether we can wait till the end of the budget cycle. But we need to make sure that we clean up from the storm, that we give opportunity to those who were affected, and so that's going to be a priority as ours as we move forward.
The Senate today has teed up its debate over the school choice expansion bill that runs it through the lottery program for Chairwoman Erickson. Is that a stance that the House is going to support, or do you think that there is a different or better way for that bill to be funded, for ESAs to be funded?
Right now, I'm on a watch mode. We went in different directions in our philosophy of the bill. I'm concerned that bringing in a new funding stream might be a novel issue, and we've been carefully trying to learn from each step of the process all along. So I'm going to watch. I'm going to see. I believe the debate in the Senate is going to be robust. I think there will be not just new members of the Senate, but other people that have dealt with the school choice issue quite a bit over the years. I think that we'll learn a lot from that debate. When they send us a product, then I will look at all the merits. There's so many moving parts. I can't say yes or no to what it is right now because I don't think it'll stay that way. So I'll react when it gets here, and we'll meet and see what we think from our budget numbers and our lessons learned from past opinions.
The Senate bypassed the typical kind of public hearings where people can voice their opinions about it. Do you plan to hold public hearings where people can voice their opinions?
Our normal process over here is to have public input. It is an issue that has been debated for many, many years. So there was a school of argument that, you know, we'd just be doing something we've done before. I typically don't stymie discussion of something. There's always new players, so I think you can expect debate and discussion on the bill in the House.
Speaker Smith, the other night, when talking about tax reform, you brought up starting at AGI as opposed to taxable income. What does that look like, and how much more people would that bring into being taxed in South Carolina?
Well, we haven't settled on our plan yet. This is obviously a very complex and complicated issue. And so I think the best way we can do this is by bringing stakeholders in, talking to the governor's office, talking to the Senate. And so we're trying to get ideas, but I think everybody has a goal in mind that we've got to be competitive with our neighbors. And that's what we're concentrating on now. And then we're trying to find the way that best can serve that.
How soon might we actually see a plan, and do you expect it for this year or
I
next?
expect it this year.
Okay.
And so I would like to give you a date. I don't want to commit to it, but it's going to be soon.
And what do you think of Shane Massey saying it needs to be holistic reform?
Well, I agree 100%, but I've been through the process a number of years of having holistic reform. We've been through the TRAC Commission, we've been through the Pope Committee. I served on a subcommittee that tried to eliminate the income tax, sales tax exemptions, and over 500 of them, I think we eliminated about 12 at the end of the process by the time it made it to the committee. So what you need to do is focus on the goal, and the goal is to reduce the income tax, and then get that, and we can continue to look at tax reform. We need tax reform holistically, I agree 100%, but we need to make sure that we don't let that get in the way of income tax reduction.
Is the plan to focus on income tax this year, or then other taxes next year?
Yes, sir.
Speaker Smith, we're waiting to hear from this forensic auditor who's looking into that $1.8 billion General Treasurer Loftus. What potential ramifications could come out of this report?
Well, obviously, we're going to be briefed on the report here before it's released tomorrow, so we'll know more here shortly. But I know the one thing that we have is we've got an SEC investigation that's bearing down, and we need to make sure that we cooperate and that we let them know that this was not intentional. We were not trying to misstate anything, and continue to work to try to get this resolved and find ways to prevent this from happening again in the future. So you'll see the House, and I presume the governor and the Senate, we all come to some type of agreement on how we can protect this from not occurring again.
At minimum, I know the conversations last year included putting qualifications, minimum qualifications for someone who runs as treasurer. That went nowhere. Do you expect that discussion to come back up again?
Well, I think we're going to have a discussion on a number of options of how we address this issue going forward. I mean, you saw the Senate last year was talking about placing the Comptroller General and the Treasurer in the Governor's Cabinet. There's a whole host of options. So when we get this report, then we'll start analyzing how we proceed forward. But we'll do something to make sure that this would not occur again.
The governor released his executive budget. Did you see any overlap there, some common ground amongst what he's proposing and maybe what y'all are starting to look into when it comes to crafting the budget this year?
Yeah, absolutely. Chairman Bannister's not here today, so I guess I can fill in for that. But I think that it was a well thought out budget. It was sound. It made the priorities what we have been trying to enact over the past few years, concentrating on teachers, concentrating on tax relief, and a number of key issues. So as usual, we have a governor who we work with collaboratively, and so I look forward to working with him on his budget and trying to improve it from how the House normally goes through the process.
Okay.
In the governor's budget, there was a proposal to allow South Carolinians to buy lottery tickets with debit cards. I know Senator Greg Hembry, I believe, has proposed that in the past as well. Is that something the House is interested in?
I wouldn't see any problems with that. I was here, unfortunately, when we went through the lottery lottery legislation, and for some reason, there were people who demanded that. I think now in today's society, more people use credit cards and less people carry cash, and that would make sense, but, you know, we obviously will let the committees hear the process, hear the pros and cons of it and make a decision there, but it'll be heard in the committee process.
I don't know if Chairman Newton would like to also weigh in on this, but this morning, the Family Caucus had a press conference in which we asked Representative McCravy about his membership on the Judiciary Committee. He said he still plans to talk to you about whether he can go and sit on another committee. Is that a discussion that you plan or even want to have with him? Would you like to see him stay on Judiciary or move to another committee?
Well, I think those are issues between members, and I will have a discussion with Representative McCravy, and we'll find out. I'm not gonna discuss it in public what happens, but, you know, obviously, I don't think you can resign from a committee, but I'll be happy to meet with them and talk to them about it.
Maybe one more question?
And Chairwoman Erickson, they were talking about putting the 10 Commandments in classrooms. Do you think that's a priority that we should be focusing on for education?
I'm happy to entertain bills that come across, but it's not on my top 10 to get done. The largest piece right now is to look to that choice issue to restore those services that were